Hey everyone, I'm Sison, and today we're taking a look at the Sony A6500. Now the A6500 is Sony's flagship crop sensor camera and sits above the A6300, which was released last year. Now with this new camera, there are quite a few new hardware updates that a lot of people have been asking for, but there are also quite a few new software updates that people may or may not find useful. Now in this video, stay tuned because I'm going to take you through a quick tour of the camera, and at the end of the video, I'll let you know what I personally think of it. So stay tuned. The A6500 has a weather-resistant magnesium alloy body wrapped in a plastic shell. On the front of the camera, you have an AF illuminator to allow the camera to focus in dim lighting situations. On the top, there is a hot shoe to attach different accessories like flashes and microphones, a pop-up flash, mode dial, a jog dial, 2 custom buttons, and a shutter button which is shared with the on and off switch. On the side of the camera, there is an NFC tag for one-touch pairing, and on the other side is a door with 3 ports. The one on the top is to connect a cord to transfer images and charge your camera internally. The middle is a mini HDMI port to view photos and videos on an HD TV. And lastly, a microphone input. On the back of the camera, there is a viewfinder and a simple button layout like Sony's other A6000 series cameras. Plus there is an LCD touchscreen which I'll get into a bit of detail later on, and it can also tilt up and down for different angled shooting. Finally, on the bottom there is a tripod mount and a little door which houses a W-type battery and an SD card slot. Now the camera weighs approximately 453 grams, and that's with the battery included. So while it's a bit heavier than the A6300, what's noticeable is that you're going to have a larger recessed grip, which is going to make the camera easier to hold for long periods of time, especially if you have longer lenses. After much feedback from consumers, Sony has decided to redesign its menu system. It's more streamlined with headings on each page, which makes it a lot easier to navigate and understand. Let's not forget there are a bunch of buttons on the camera that you can customize with different settings and features. Now, I was very excited to see the touchscreen feature on the A6500. Since its announcement, I was hoping that was going to be better than the A5100's touchscreen, and if you see my first impressions video, it was quite disappointing. It's a resistive touchscreen, which means you have to apply more pressure to it, and it's not as responsive compared to a capacitive touchscreen. In fact, it feels rather laggy. You can use it in stills and videos, and you won't be able to use it to navigate through the menu. But one thing it does allow you to do is easily input your details if you're logging in onto Play Memories. Now, one of the features of this touchscreen is that you can change the focus point if you have your eye to the viewfinder by dragging your finger across the screen to get what you want in focus. Pretty cool. The A6500 is the first APS-C sensor camera from Sony to offer 5-axis stabilisation, which is a big plus for anyone who shoots at slow shutter speeds and for those that adapt the lenses but don't have stabilisation built into the lens. While having stabilisation is better than not having it at all, I found this more of a benefit for stills rather than video, and it's nowhere as close to replacing a gimbal, and it's nowhere near as good as the Panasonic and Olympus mirrorless cameras, although they have a smaller size sensor which is easier to stabilize. A feature that makes its debut on Sony's mirrorless cameras is slow and quick motion video, otherwise known as S&Q. This allows you to film in a variety of frame rates from 1 frame a second to 120 frames per second, depending if you're shooting in NTSC or PAL, and create a movie without the need for post-processing, so you can see the video straight away in camera. Just a quick note, this is only available in Full HD. The A6500 uses the same autofocusing system as the A6300. So what does that mean? You're going to get quick and accurate autofocusing, whether that be in stills or videos. And while I'm doing it in video now, the continuous autofocusing system can keep up with my movements. So whether I'm moving side to side or back and forth, the camera can keep up. So that's a really impressive thing I love showing on these cameras. The A6500 can shoot at 11 frames per second, but what's impressive about it now is that it has an LSI processor, that allows you to shoot for a very long time in continuous shooting. In fact, it can shoot up to 300 frames per second in JPEG or 100 frames per second when shooting in RAW and JPEG, and that's a very long time for one burst. You can also see the buffer clearing on the LCD screen, which can be pretty handy. Now, there are so many features that this camera has, and I can't cover them all because the video will just be too long, but to quickly skim over a few of them, you have picture effects, sweep panorama, Wi-Fi, NFC, play memories apps, smile detection, handheld twilight, peaking, silent shooting, and a whole lot more. The camera is actually pretty slow to start up, taking about 2.5 seconds from switching it on and being able to take a photo. As for battery life, I was able to get about 300 to 350 shots on a full charge. In terms of image quality, it's similar to the A6300. So shooting up to ISO 12800 is what I would be comfortable shooting up to when in low light situations. But I wouldn't hesitate to go up to 25,600 as a last resort. However, images do lose their detail. I would say it's one of the best APS-C size sensor cameras on the market, showing a lot of detail and good color reproduction with a great amount of dynamic range. As for video, the camera can shoot Full HD, slow motion video up to 120 frames per second in Full HD, and it also has improved 4K video. In terms of overheating, I haven't encountered that at all, and I actually managed to shoot about 29 minutes of 4K video. And I guess the amount of time you can really film just depends on the ambient temperature that you're shooting in. Although you now have a auto power off temperature to control whether you want the camera to shut down when it overheats at a specific temperature or at a higher temperature, although the camera may get a bit hot if you set it too high. Of course, with video features, you have S-Log 2 and S-Log 3, Zebra, dual video recording, and a few other settings which will make shooting video easier. The A6500 is a fantastic camera. Sony have managed to cram a boatload of features and technologies into it while still keeping to a reasonably small form factor. However, I can't help but think this is what the A6300 should have been. In terms of its autofocusing performance and image quality, while still being top-notch, it's virtually identical to the A6300. So what you're really paying more for are the software and hardware updates. While that's not necessarily a bad thing, I feel like Sony should have implemented things like the touchscreen a lot better, especially when you compare it to other manufacturers. Adding 5-axis stabilisation, an LSI processor for better buffer depth, and a refined menu system are all clear indications though that Sony are listening to its consumers to improve the user experience. Now, I would highly recommend this for wildlife and sports photographers, mainly because I feel like they'd get more out of the 5-axis stabilization and the longer buffer depth. But if you shoot other things like macro photography, landscapes, and want the latest tech from Sony, the A6500 is no slouch. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. And if you already own one, let me know what you think of it. And remember to like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe to my channel for more Sony camera reviews and tutorials. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram for more photo updates and sample photos. And be sure to check the description below for more information about this camera. And until then, happy shooting and thanks for watching. And sits above the A6300. Now, this camera sports a few new hardware, also has quite a few new features that Sony. Now, the A6500 is Sony's newest top-of-the-line APS-C size sensor, blah blah. It also sports quite a few new features that a lot of people have been asking for, but there are also quite a few